I can't tell you the number of people that ask me all the time, hey, Dr. Woode, what labs should I get checked? I'm trying to work on my diabetes. I'm trying to work on my health. I'm trying to work on getting healthier, and I want to reverse my diabetes. What should I look at? And so tonight we're going to spend some time looking at the labs that we should get as we are working on getting better. And we're going to actually take a look at some of my labs. I think I've been telling you for a while now that we're going to take a look at that. That's what we're going to be doing tonight. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I am educating, empowering, and encouraging our patients, our clients, our viewers to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to improve their health, who want to get off of diabetes medications, and who want to reverse their diabetes. Also, if you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap. And some music to let you know that we are excited and glad that you are here with us tonight. If you have questions, and I hope you have questions, go ahead and put those in chat. We'll get to those as we get through the show. Make sure you put a Q and a colon in front of it. And then, of course, like we do, you guys know how we do it here. I've got my meters that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. We're going to take a look at my report. That's my Dexcom that you see on the screen right now, and see what's been going on over the last several days since we ended our fast, which was actually last Friday. And you know how we do. We kind of continue that process as an ongoing development and improving of ourselves. So glad that you are out there. I do see some folks. I see Teresa. Teresa is saying, hello, Steve. Let's see, pull that up. Hello, Steve. And I think I saw Steve on earlier. He actually was commenting before we even went live. So Steve, hey, I see you out there. I think you were over. Yep, I see you over. He said, evening, young ladies. Jennifer is out there as well, was commenting. So glad that you guys are here and that you're taking time to be healthy. I had a great weekend. Last week, as you remember, we had lots of graduations, and I'm sure you had graduations as well, and lots of things were going on. And this week, we're getting full force into the summer. Well, let's talk. So, as we are working on improving our diabetes, there are several things that go on in our body. As we're working on getting healthier, there are several changes that we will see as we go throughout our year, our month, as we take visits to our doctor. And there are some key things that we want to make sure that are being checked and that you are mindful of as you are going through the process of working on your health. And I'm going to show you something that happened to me with this most recent set of labs that I got, which I don't know that it was surprising. It was expected, but I wasn't happy about it. And you'll see we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars here, and then we'll get started. Okay, so on the screen, you should see now my Libre, which is coming up. And Libre says that my blood sugar is 74. As you guys know, I actually wear 2 glucose monitors. I wear a Libre, which is what you're looking at right now. And then I also wear a Dexcom, which, well, I thought I had it up, y'all. Well, let's take a look. There it is. So the Dexcom should be coming up in just a minute. It will connect as we take a look at that. In the meantime, over to my left, I do have my Keto Mojo meter, and also I do have my Contour. As you know, those are the 4 that we usually use as we take a look at what blood sugars are doing. Let's see if that Dexcom has come up yet. Yeah, so 94. So it's 94 for the Dexcom and 74 for the Libre. People often ask about differences between the two. As a matter of fact, I had that conversation in the office today several times with people who were talking about differences. And remember, for all these monitors, they are, and they can be about 20%. That's the standard. 20% different from each other. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my Contour and my Keto Mojo are saying, and then we get a better idea of where these other two stand at this moment. Also remember that there are different things that can cause the meters to have numbers that are not completely accurate. For example, heat will sometimes affect them. Also, if you've been taking a lot of vitamin C, that will affect some meters as well. All right, so now I've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour. I just need to get a drop of blood. And I'll need 3 drops of blood because I need 2 for the Keto Mojo. And let's see if that was, I don't think that was a good enough drop. All right, so hold on a minute, y'all. Okay, let's use a different finger. All right, let's see. There we go. So that will be 1 for the Keto Mojo, 1 for the Contour. And so what do you think my ketones are going to be? We're going to look at that here in just a minute. So 77 blood sugar for the Keto Mojo and 85 for the Contour. The Dexcom said that it was 94 and the Libre said it was 74. And let's go ahead and get a ketone strip into the monitor, and let's see what that will show. And of course, like I always do, I'm going to tease you guys and hop back over here, and we'll talk about what that's going to show here in just a little while. Okay, in the meantime, so let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's have a conversation about results. Right, about blood sugars, about results. In metabolic disease, there are several general things that your doctor will check. They will, and if you're having specific items, if you're having specific things go on, there are, of course, things that they will check. If you're fatigued, if you're having pain, if you have other disease processes, they'll check other labs. As we talk about diabetes and remission for diabetes or reversing diabetes, or even as we are managing diabetes in general, there are several things that we want to take a look at, and we'll go through those here in just a little while. But you want to make sure, first of all, that you are having regular checkups, right? I can't say that enough. I'm actually doing a presentation next week to a group of men, and one of the things that we're going to be talking about, one of the things I'm going to be emphasizing is making sure that we're having regular checkups, because as men, we tend not to do that. As a matter of fact, in general, sometimes we tend not to go to the doctor, but more so in men. So making sure that you're having regular checkups. If there are other things going on, your doctor will go through and they will work with you to check those, okay? But specifically for diabetes, there are several things that we want to look at, and you'll see those coming up on the screen, and we'll kind of go through those in turn. Number one, we want to check a hemoglobin A1C. Why hemoglobin A1C? Because it's a marker of how your diabetes management is going, okay? It tells us whether the plan that you're using is being effective for the management of your diabetes. The hemoglobin A1C is a 90-day average of what your blood sugars are. I won't go through right now how to convert average blood sugar to hemoglobin A1C. We'll come back and we'll do that. And we've done a video on that in the past. You can look at the website, and it will be coming up again for us to take a look at. So hemoglobin A1C, a 90-day average. We want your hemoglobin A1C to be on average about 6.5. Depending on the organization, some people will say less than 7, less than 6.5. I tell my patients 6.5. Because it gives us a little leeway in case we drift. And we drift, don't we, everybody? Yeah, you know that. Right, so hemoglobin A1C. The next is a fasting glucose, a fasting blood glucose. This is a surrogate, if you will, and in conjunction with the hemoglobin A1C, it helps us to see what those blood sugars are. Now, here's an interesting thing that can sometimes happen. You can actually have an abnormal hemoglobin A1C and a normal fasting glucose. Some people, their spike in blood sugars only occur after they eat. But they're eating 3 times a day or 4 times or whatever the number is in terms of snacking. And so they have blood sugars that are higher more often than just in the morning. So just because your fasting blood sugar is normal does not mean that you do not have prediabetes or even diabetes. And just because your hemoglobin A1C may be normal doesn't mean that you're not still having fluctuations. Okay? Because remember that hemoglobin A1C, and I guess let me go ahead and talk about it. So if you have a hemoglobin A1C of 6.5 or higher, then you're considered to be diabetic. Right? 6.5 or higher is diabetes. Below that is considered to not be diabetes. And then, of course, there's the range for normal and then pre-diabetes. So here we're talking about diabetes. So 6.5 or higher is a diagnosis of diabetes. So you can have a hemoglobin A1C that is not diabetic range, but your blood sugars are fluctuating. And so that fasting blood sugar in the morning will give us an indication of what else could be going on. The other thing is a lipid profile. This is your cholesterol. So there's total cholesterol, LDL, which is your good cholesterol. HDL, which is your good cholesterol, LDL, which is your bad cholesterol. And there are some nuances for the lipid profile, lipid panel, because we traditionally have always talked about looking at the bad cholesterol or the LDL cholesterol. There are some other surrogates, and people can actually have a bad LDL and still be in a good space, or they can have a good LDL and still be at risk for disease processes. Okay, so just because you're looking at just the regular lipid profile, there may be some other things that your doctor may have to check on. So that's the lipid panel or cholesterol levels. The other thing is to look at your kidney function. Remember, the kidneys are part of that triopathy, right? So nephropathy, neuropathy, and retinopathy. Those are the tissues in the body that are most often involved in the in being damaged from diabetes. So looking at the kidneys, very, very important. And the kidney functions, there are 3 numbers that I usually tell people that we want to look at. We want to look at your creatinine that comes on something called the complete metabolic panel. We want to look at your GFR or glomerular filtration rate, which also comes on the complete metabolic panel. And then we also want to look at your microalbumin, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. So what are we looking at when we're looking at kidney function? Your kidneys are responsible for filtering and detoxifying. And so diabetes can cause damage to the mechanisms that are involved in the kidneys. And if we're not careful, then we have difficulty filtering and detoxifying. And ultimately, if that progresses, right, stage 1, 2, 3, or 4 kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, the ultimate of that is what everybody kind of talks about and fears, that's dialysis. But you don't have to be on dialysis to have difficulties with kidneys. So you want to make sure that you are looking at those numbers. There are specific numbers that we look at depending on age, depending on race, depending on so many different things. Not a conversation for this discussion tonight, but just to know that those are things that you want to be looking at as well. So kidney function. And then the other organ that detoxifies, and that is the liver, right? So we want to look at the liver functions. And specifically here, we're looking at AST and ALT. Those are some of the enzymes. You don't have to know that right now. but these are markers of liver functions. And sometimes we'll see those start to rise as people get into that thing that we've been talking about all the time. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So people will have difficulty with their liver, and looking at the liver functions gives us an early indication of what's going on or what can be going on in the liver. Okay, so the kidney function and the liver function, and the fasting blood sugar are all on the same panel, and it's called a complete metabolic panel. Complete metabolic panel. A lot of times the doctor will get a basic metabolic panel, and it will give a blood sugar, it will give the kidney function, but it doesn't give liver function and some of the other things that may be required to kind of make sure there aren't other issues that are going on in the body. Remember, the body is this intricate interplay of different organs, organ systems, hormones, right? So, hey, I'm the hormone guy. Enzymes and proteins. And so making sure that you get a complete picture of everything that's going on is where we want to be. And that's what checking these different labs will give us. Okay, so kidney function, liver function, and then microalbumin. This is the one I was talking about. Remember the three? So creatinine, glomerular filtration rate, or EGFR, and then, of course, the microalbumin. So microalbumin, so your body, your kidneys are kind of like a sieve or a strainer, okay? And so things that shouldn't pass through as diabetes affects it, those holes in the strainer, in the sieve, get bigger, and things that should not go through can go through. And so what we begin seeing is this thing called microalbumin that shows up in the urine. So when your doctor says, hey, I want you to go to the lab, and they get a urine specimen, particularly if you're diabetic, what we're looking at, we're looking to see whether you have microalbumin and whether we're starting to see effects on the kidneys from your diabetes and your elevated blood sugar. So that's what the microalbumin is. And this is one of those three numbers that I just gave. And then, of course, thyroid functions. And the thyroid functions fall in play here because people who have one autoimmune disease or one inflammatory process, which we believe is what diabetes is, an autoimmune disease, then they tend to have another disease because they tend to travel in groups. And so checking the thyroid level, very important in terms of making sure that we're not seeing other issues, other disease processes that are going on. Now, for the things that you're seeing, right, the things that we just named, so hemoglobin, your fasting blood sugar, your lipid profile, your liver profile, your kidney, your microalbumin, many of these are screening. What does that mean? That means that we are not expecting to see damage. We're not expecting to see changes. But what we're doing is we're screening to make sure that as soon as, if something shows up, that we can catch it and begin working on it. That makes sense? So it's a screening process. So a lot of people say, well, why do I have to get microalbumin? Why do I have to get this other thing? Because there's nothing wrong with my kidneys. Well, we don't know there's nothing wrong with your kidneys unless we check. And so that's what many of these are. They are screening tools that we use to check to make sure that we're not starting to see damage. Often I'll sit or go into the room and I'll review each of these with the patient and say, okay, your sodium, your potassium, your calcium levels are good. Your kidney functions, your creatinine is good. Your microalbumin, there's no protein there. Your cholesterol level, I'll go through each of the cholesterol numbers, and I'll go through and talk about what the liver numbers are. And we'll see those here in just a minute as we take a look at some of my personal numbers as we review that, okay? All right, so, and then there are some other things that I want to, they may not all be labs. There are a couple of more labs coming up, but there are some other things that we want to make sure that we're looking at as well. And so other things to be checked. So something called a C-peptide and your insulin level. Now, as we talk about adults with type 2 diabetes, and we talk about type 2 diabetes in general, type 2 diabetes is what we call an insulin resistant issue, right? So that's the dogma. There's some changing thoughts that are going on, but right now it's an insulin resistant issue. What does that mean? That means that in the body, insulin for some reason doesn't work as effectively as it should. As you guys know, the pillars that we've been using here, number one is to decrease insulin, number two, suppress the appetite, and number three, get rid of sugar. So that number one, that first pillar that we talk about is the insulin that that is showing up there in that C-peptide and insulin. So when we check a C-peptide and an insulin level, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out how much insulin resistance someone may have, or whether their body is still producing insulin. So as I go through the office, as I talk to patients, clients, I'll say to them, your body is still making insulin, if that's the case. So the question then comes, if my body is still making insulin, why is the insulin I'm making not sufficient to reverse my diabetes? And there are lots of reasons for that as we have been walking through this process of New Year, New You. You've heard me talk about several of the reasons, and the reasons, a big reason, of course, is food, exercise, our stress management, sleep, and all those other things. Okay, so looking at the C-peptide gives us a marker or an indication of whether someone is making insulin. Now, what's the difference between actually checking the insulin and looking at the C-peptide? Well, if someone is actually taking insulin medication-wise, then there's no virtue in checking their insulin level, because I don't know when I get that lab, is this because I'm checking the level of the insulin that they got when they took their shot, or is this insulin coming from what their body's making, right? So there's no way to tell. But the C-peptide is a way to look at how the body is making that. For example, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, let's use this. Oh, here it is. I could use something different. All right, so this, let me come over here. I just came up with this, y'all. Look, listen. All right, so here we go. So right now, so this is a lancet, right? This is the lancet I actually used just now to check my blood sugar, and it is. Let's make sure. Let's pretend that that's insulin, okay? And the lancet actually comes in two parts. There's the part that I use to poke my finger, and there's the cap that goes on top of it. Make sense? Right. So think of this kind of like insulin. Now, I should have, at least I saw it just a minute ago. Okay, here we go. So if I showed up and I saw this on the table, and we're going to pretend that this is another cap. If I showed up and I saw two caps on the table, then I could say that somebody used two different lancing devices. Does that make sense? So if I saw two caps, I could say, hey, somebody used two lancing devices, because I know one cap goes with a lancet. So if I see two caps, there had to have been two lancets around. The same thing for insulin. If I show up and I see two pieces of C-peptide, I know there were two pieces of insulin around. I can't tell whether it's from somebody took it, if I look at the insulin, or the body made it. But if I see the C-peptide, I know the body had to have made it, because C-peptide doesn't come from anywhere else. I know that's as clear as mud. But we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at doing more information and a show on C-peptide and some of those other things, insulin resistance. Okay? All right. So checking the C-peptide gives me a marker, if you will, of what has been going on in my body in terms of its production of insulin. All right, so C-peptide. CBC, or complete blood count. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see, is someone anemic? Because having anemia can cause other issues within the body, so I'm checking for anemia. And then these next few things are not labs, but they're things that need to be checked as well. So you want to make sure you're having an eye exam. Remember, retinopathy. So one of the opathies, the triopathy, retinopathy, neuropathy, and nephropathy. So making sure you're having an annual eye exam. Making sure that you're checking your weight. And we have been doing a good job here on the show, in our fasting, in our check-ins, of looking at weight so that we can see what's going on as we're making changes in our metabolic health. And then, of course, checking blood pressure and checking your foot exam. And you need to do the foot exam. We normally send our patients off to see the podiatrist, and they do an exam, they do an initial assessment, and then they schedule you based on what's going on for more appointments. You may be seeing them more frequently, less frequently, but it's based on what's going on in terms of your blood sugar. All right. And so then now let's take a look, and we're going to take a look at some of my numbers, right? If you have questions, make sure you go ahead and put those in the comments about any of the labs, right? So those are the standard labs that you want to make sure are being checked by your doc as we talk about improving our health. Now, once again, several of them are screening labs, and what we're trying to do is catch things before they become an issue, right? Catch things before they become an issue. All right, and so let's hop over and let's take a look at, and I've been saying to you for the last several months that we're going to come and we're going to take a look at my actual numbers as I've moved through prior to New Year process, in the New Year process, and where I am right now. And so this first set of labs that we're going to do is my labs from December of last year. And you'll see the December labs, but you'll also see labs from the month or some time prior to that. Because on the labs, remember, they usually put the current labs, and then right next to it, they'll put what previous labs were. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look at these are labs for me from the month of, let me pull this over. Here we go. So these are labs that were collected in December of 2023. And the first set of labs that you see there, of course, is the CBC, the complete blood count, as we just talked about a little while ago. You'll see this in a different order as we look at the others. This one was, I think there was something that they didn't order in this, but we looked at it in another place. So the things I look at, and you'll see there, my pointer is not working for some reason. So about four down, you'll see the hemoglobin and hematocrit, right? And you'll see that those are in the target range. And usually you'll see if it's out of the target range, you'll either see it say low or high, okay? So if you don't see something next to it, that means that it's actually in the range that we want it to be. And let me take a look. Okay, so you'll see there the hemoglobin and hematocrit, and so for the CBC, that's the main thing that I will look at when we're talking about checking labs. Right below it is that complete metabolic panel we talked about, and the very first one there you'll see is the glucose, and the glucose of 103, and you'll see next to the glucose, it was a glucose of 193. Now that previous one was done in September of 2022, right? So this one was December of this year, and the previous one there was September of 2022. And that's because this particular physician that did it, these were his labs that came across in his system, okay? What else? So that's the glucose. You'll see down there the creatinine is 0.91, and that's a marker of the kidney function. You'll see the GFR is 100. When we talked about creatinine as one of the markers, the GFR as another marker, and we'll look here in a little while. I don't think on this one there was a microalbumin, but we'll take a look at one of my other labs and we'll see that in just a little bit. Okay, so continuing on this, in this lab, you'll see at the top of the screen that my AST and ALT, the last two numbers, those are my liver functions, and those were in the target range, and they were in the target range in September prior. The next section, those are my cholesterol levels, right? So total cholesterol, triglycerides, good cholesterol, and then bad cholesterol. And you'll see on the most recent labs there that my bad cholesterol was actually in the good range. It was 84. But prior to that, it was 105. We like it to be less than 100. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of theory that it should be actually less than 70. So here mine was 84. Next, you'll see, and we didn't talk about this when I talked about labs that should be drawn. For my men, a lot of times I will check their testosterone levels, right? Because testosterone level, or your low testosterone level, can have a significant impact on health, well-being, life, and so forth. And you'll see there that my total testosterone was normal. Prior to that, it was actually low, 242. And my free testosterone was low on the most recent labs. And we usually treat to the total testosterone. So the total testosterone was normal, so nothing that was done there at that point. Now here's a big one. You see my A1C was 7.6, right, on this current lab in December. A little over a year plus maybe 18 months earlier, look at the A1C. It was 11.6, y'all. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. If you, back in the fall, if you remember, we did a series of shows or shorts where we walked through my journey in diabetes and some of the struggles that I have. And you'll see there that A1C is during that phase of those struggles. So if you've not already done so, go back and watch through some of those shorts, and you'll get a flavor of what was going on, some of the things that were going on at the time. So 18 months prior, and then 7.6. You'll see the TSH 1.3. The C-peptide, and look at this one, y'all. So back in when the A1C was elevated and the blood sugar was elevated, because remember the blood sugar was 193, I think is what it was. Let's back up there for a minute. Blood sugar of 193, A1C of 11.6. C-peptide was low at 0.3. So the body apparently wasn't making a whole lot of insulin. And then as the A1C improved, look at that, the C-peptide improved as well. So we went from looking like there was no insulin being produced to, hey, some insulin is being produced. And that's one of the beauty of this process of reversing diabetes, correcting diabetes, improving metabolic health. Because as you heal the body, the body begins to do what it was designed to do. If you remember, as we've been talking about the fasting, those days, those of you who are out there who've been fasting, those days immediately following fasting, you will find that you're able to eat things that you weren't previously able to eat, and your blood sugars don't spike as much. Why? Because the body is recuperating, the body is recovering, the body is improving and becoming less insulin resistant. That's one of the beauties of the New Year process and reversing diabetes. All right, so that was those were the labs from December, and of course, 18 months prior to that or so. In February, in February, let's take a look at what the blood sugar was. And you'll see there down at the bottom, the glucose was 102. The previous one was 103, you'll remember. Sodium, potassium, calcium, liver functions are all in the target range. Look at the cholesterol levels. Those are in the target range. That's in December, or that's in February. In December, they were in the target range again. And we'll see some changes here in just a little while. Now, here is the microalbumin that we talked about. And that number down at the bottom, the 7, is where we want to see. Normal is between 0 and 29. Some labs you'll see between 0 and 30. And in this case, we're 7. And so we're in that target range. So we're not seeing any microalbuminuria. So we're not seeing any damage to the kidneys in this case. And then if we take a look at the hemoglobin A1C, so we went from a 7, let me back up. So we went from a 7.6 on the previous labs. So 11.6, 7.6, and then on this set of labs, it was 6.6. So 11.6, 7.6, 6.6. And look at the C-peptide. The C-peptide continues to be where we want it to be. And the, let's pop over and let's take a look at what it is in March. So in March, we're going to go and look at the glucose. So now we've been fasting. So December, January, February, March. Look at the glucose. So we've gone from being glucoses above 100 to now glucose was 61 at the time that this was done. Still no kidney issues because look at the creatinine that's right below that and the EGFR. And then let's hop over and let's take a look at the hemoglobin A1C, which should be here somewhere. Let's see, where is that? Yeah, here it is. So we went from a 11.6, 7.6, 6.6, 6.1. That was back in March. And then, what do you think? What do you think the hemoglobin A1C is going to be? I just got this done last week. What do you think it's going to be? If you have a guess, go ahead and drop that in the chat. What do you think the hemoglobin A1C is going to be? Okay, so yeah, I know I keep you guys in suspense. So right now we need to know what my my ketones are, and of course what the hemoglobin A1C is. So we're gonna hold on to that for a minute, and let me hop over and let's take a look at some of the reports. Right, let's take a look at the reports, and this is what's been going on over the past 3 or 4 days. And here, I think I will be able to use my mouse so that I can actually point. And you should see it there. So my average blood sugar here is 93. That's for the last 14 days. If I go back 90 days, it's probably going to be like 107 or 110. Okay, 104. Okay, pretty good. And it says that my estimated A1C is going to be 5.8. So remember, that's the glucose management indicator. I'm in target 91% of the time. That target is 70 to 180. And if we actually look at the daily graphs, they'll pull up here in just a minute. And I want to go back to Friday. So we broke our fast out here right around 6, 7 o'clock. If you guys remember, we did that show. Blood sugar was 62, and then it started climbing as I ate. Because what did we use to break the fast? I think I used some cheese. Yep. I used some cheese, smoked Gouda. And salad. That's right. I had to think back. And so into the next morning, blood sugars are climbing into the 140s, and then 100 low 100s, and then right in here is lunchtime, and then we started going down to 130s, and then yesterday stayed in the 115s, 120s. A couple of spikes there as we had some meals. And then, of course, into today, we're into the 120s, 115s, right? And so we're kind of maintaining right there. Now, one thing that I did want to show you, and let me hop back over to my labs. And you guys will recall that I have been eating a lot of cheese as part of the process, right? So I've changed what I've been eating. So I'm not eating a lot of the cashews and the almonds because I was getting those spikes in my blood sugar. I moved away from eating the beans, right? Because once again, I was getting those spikes in my blood sugar. But I want to show you something that happened. So one of the things people ask about is the differences between different diets. What's the difference between a low carb diet, a ketogenic diet, a paleo diet, and so on and so forth? And here is one of the, right? So I want you to look right there. That is, you'll see in the middle of the screen, that's my lipid panel. Those are my cholesterol numbers. And if we go back here, you see cholesterol, total cholesterol 167, good cholesterol 77, bad cholesterol 79. And as I've changed what I'm eating more cheese, you guys saw me eating sausage, and look at the cholesterol, went from 167 up to 200. The bad cholesterol went from 79 up to 100, okay? So as we are adjusting the things we're eating, we can look at the labs and see changes in those values that correspond to the things that we are doing in terms of our diet. Okay? And then let's hop over and let's take a look. I know I'm prolonging this, right? We're going to take a look at what my ketones have been. What do you think my ketones are? All right, so let me pop over. I'm going to need to turn on my Keto Mojo meter and go ahead and get my Keto Mojo app. And that'll start syncing here in just a minute. You'll see that come up. And then we're going to see what my A1C is. All right, so 77 was the blood sugar, and look at the ketones. The ketones are 0.8. So that means that I've been actually doing a pretty good job, even though I was eating, of maintaining some ketosis post-fast. I mean, one of the reasons that we're doing the fast is because we want the body to be able to burn calories from fat, and the calories that we burn from fat will produce ketones, and we get the weight loss as a result of that. We get the improved blood sugar as a result of that. We get the autophagy and all those benefits that come from that. And in this case, I'm still kind of maintaining some ketones as I go through that process. All right? All right. So, yeah, I know you've waited long enough. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what my A1C is. Let me make sure that I didn't miss someone in the chat. Okay. And drum roll, please. And the A1C, look at that right in the middle of the screen, was 5.8, which is what the keto, not the keto, but what my Dexcom Clarity app actually predicted, right? So it predicted that my, and let's go back to that here really quickly. Let's go back to the overview, and so it said that over the course of the last 3 months, my estimated A1C was going to be a 5.8. And in fact, when we got the numbers, when we got the levels, my A1C um, was 5.8. So that's a pretty good marker, pretty good indication. All right. And so the process of improving, the process of improving our metabolic health, the process of doing all those things that we've described in terms of reversing the diabetes, this is a process that works. This is a process that you can do. This is a process that is important and a process that we are working on here on the channel as we work to reverse your diabetes. Awesome. I love that, love that, love that. And I think this is, if you have questions, I think if you do have questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments, because I would love to get to those as we talk about what's going on in your health. If you've been fasting, I want to see that as well. If you have done a fast, it doesn't have to be an extended fast. If you fasted at all, I want you to go ahead and put those in the comments so that we know where you are. If you have someone that you've mentored, and we'll talk a little bit here in a little while about what the challenge was for last month, and we're in the new month right now, and we'll talk about what that is. If you have someone that you've mentored, put mentor. If you have someone that you're working with, I want to see that. I want to be able to know what's going on, and so you can share that with everyone that is in our group, because everybody wants to know what is happening, right? What successes you've had, and where you are at this point. I love it, love it, love all of that we're doing here, y'all. Okay, and this is I'm doing one thing here really quickly, y'all. Give me just a second. So we need to make one change. But yeah, so if you've done that, if you've mentored someone, go ahead and put mentor in the chat. If you've been fasting, go ahead and put how long you have fasted, because we want to know the number of hours. If you've done a 24-hour fast, go ahead and put 24. If you've done an extended fast, go ahead and put if you've done a 32, put 32, 74. We've had someone who did a 96-hour fast, which I am always excited to see, because during those periods we get some significant weight change and significant benefit in terms of autophagy and immune improvement. Remember, that's one of the benefits that we get from. Let's see. One of the benefits that we get from the process. Okay, all right. So let's get back over here. I was trying to make a change here, and of course, when you need to do things, the computer doesn't always do what you want it to do, right? But that's okay. We're gonna plug away anyway. All right. Here we are. And so right now, this is actually a great place for the thought of the day. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Let's do that right now. And our thought of the day is this, is that the groundwork of all success is good health. Mm, mm. The groundwork of all success is good health. Now, as you're sitting there and you're listening, there are two most valuable things that we own. And you've probably heard me say it before. That is our time and our health. Time and health. And I always say, are you making good use of your time? And are you taking care of your health? Because if you have good health, you can learn and you can improve. But if you have poor health and you are spending all of your energies, all of your time trying to recover and just get through each day, then it makes it difficult for the other things. Now, that does not mean that if you are in a position where you have had some damage, you've had some complications, that everything is lost. It just means that if right now you have not seen damage, you have not seen complications, you have not seen the worst parts of the disease process that you're living with, this is the time to make sure that you're putting things in place so that you protect the health that you have. I want you to think about this. Think about the person in your family that is the oldest that you know right now. The oldest person in your family right now. And I want you to think about how old you are. I want you to think about the person that you know in your family history that was the oldest that lived in the family. Right? I want you to think about those folks. So our goal ultimately is to get you to live longer than they did. That is the process. So if you're right now 50 and the oldest person in your family is 100, then our goal is to get you to be 100 or even 101. So if you're 50 right now and we're trying to get you to be 100 years old, get to live to be 100 years old, to be healthy at 100 years old, then we have 50 years to protect. If you're 70 and we're trying to get you to be 80, we've got 10 years to protect. If you're 90 and we're trying to get you to be 100, if you're 90, we're trying to get you to be 91, we got 1 year to protect. So as you're thinking about the value of the life that you have, as you're thinking about the benefit of the life that you have, as you think about the successes that you want to have in the future, the basis, the fundamental part of that is good health. And so right now, my question to you is, are you managing your time well? And are you investing in taking care of your health? Because if you do that, then you're setting yourself up for success. That's why it's so important as we talk here, new year, new you. That's why it's so important as we reverse diabetes. That's why it's so important as we work on metabolic diseases. It is with the intention of setting the foundation of what it takes to ultimately be successful. And when I say be successful, I'm talking life in terms of health, but everything else hinges on that as well. Your financial success, if you're healthy, you can improve. Your relational success, if you're healthy, you can improve. Your political, your emotional, right? Your professional, your educational. Good health is a fundamental, basic part of it all. And so for you right now, are you taking care, are you managing your time, and are you taking care of your health? And that is our thought for today. All right, all right. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so as we go through this process, one of the big things that I've been talking about is this idea of unlimited, right? And that's what you see. That's my T-shirt that I've got on right now. Unlimited. And actually, let me step up a little. Unlimited. Unlimited potential. Unlimited power. Unlimited ability. Unlimited resources at your fingertips with good health. Education, empowerment, encouragement allows you to position yourself to access that unlimited potential. You have the ability to reverse your disease, to improve your disease. You have the ability to improve your health. You have the ability to go beyond where you thought you can go. I can tell you the number of people that I'm seeing coming through the office who are coming back now, who are on the new year, new you path, who are getting off of medication, who are losing weight, who are putting down their insulin pump, who are saying, I feel better than I felt in years. Just because it didn't work in the past, just because you did not succeed in the past, just because people said to you, oh, it can't be done, doesn't make it true. I want to convince you that you have unlimited ability, unlimited potential that you have not tapped into yet. And that all comes with empowerment that comes from education that is wrapped into encouragement. And so how do we do things here on the channel? That's the triple E formula for success. Education, empowerment, and encouragement. It is the fuel for the unlimited potential that you have. The the education comes from the shows that we do, the podcasts, the blogs. All of that is part of the education. The empowerment comes from the tools that we learn. Just now, we just learned a set of tools in how to adjust. We learned how to adjust medication. We learned the heat model, and we just tonight learned what labs we need to look at. That's a tool that you can now use to have a conversation with your physician, with your healthcare providers, with your healthcare team. And then encouragement comes from the community that you are a part of, the community that makes this space so powerful. Education, empowerment, and encouragement. And as we're moving through the process of becoming healthy, there are some things that we're going to run into that can derail us. And these are given in the heat model. So the habits that we formed, the emotions that we may not have control over or the ability to manage or to deal with, the access that we have to things that we said that we weren't going to get into, and the taste, that memory that the food brings to us. The habits that we develop, right? We eat because it's a habit, not because we're hungry. We eat because, well, it's time to eat. We eat because we went to the movies, and when we go to the movies, we eat. We eat because we play cards, we go bowling, we hang out with our friends, and that's part of what we do, not because we're hungry. And so those habits are triggers for us. The emotions. I've told people so many times that it does not matter the decision that you have made. I'll be honest. The decision that you've made, I love it. That you've decided you're not going to eat this thing, or you're going to stay away from that, or you're not going to go down this path. Amazing. I love it. I love the resolve that you have. But when those emotions come, it's like putting yourself at the top of a roller coaster and expecting that the roller coaster is not going to go down. When those emotions show up, you are going to succumb. And so the goal then is not to fight the thing, fight the food. What the goal is for you to be able to deal with the emotions that are driving you in that direction. right? So we eat because of habits. We eat because of emotions. We eat because of access. There are some things, y'all, that I don't bring in the house anymore. Notice I had to add anymore because I know if they're here, I'm going to eat them, right? One of the things I've got to change now, and you guys saw my labs a little while ago, is the cheese. Right, so I've been eating cheese because I say I'm not eating carbs, so I'm going to switch to something else. Well, yeah, I got to be moderate with that as well, right? Because that's my new thing. That's my new thing. Yes, right. It is like an addiction. Yeah, and then we eat because of taste. Now, here's the thing that I want people to realize: we're never chasing food. People say, oh, I can't not eat that, or that's my thing, or I just love that. You know what you love about it? You love what it does for you, the feeling that you get, the memory that it brings back. It's not the food that we're chasing. We're chasing the thing that the food does for us, or the feeling it brings, or the memory, the place it takes us back to. Oh, I remember when I was growing up, this is what we ate. Or I remember when mom and I used to get together, this is what she cooked for me. Oh, I remember that time we went to that place and this is how I felt. So we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and we eat because of taste. And so our call to action is this. Number one, join the challenges. Join the challenges. Every month we have a challenge that we go through. Don't just let this be something that you listen to, that you hear, that goes and sits on the shelf. Right? I want you to join the challenges, become a part of the community. And each month we have a challenge. And so in the month of January, it was to figure out your why. Why do we want to be healthy? Why do we want to improve the A1C? Why do we want to reverse our diabetes? In the month of February, we was to fast a 24-hour period once a week. Some of you have moved beyond 24 hours and now fasting 36 hours. You know, I do a 72-hour fast. The last couple of weeks, I've done a 96 plus hour fast. Okay. We're going to see what this one is this week. Right. And then the heat model in March was to figure out which of these things drive you. Is it habit? Is it your emotion? Is it your access to food? Or is it taste? Which one was yours? In April, to create a meal, when we learned a 7-day menu plan, but to create a meal that was special to you, that fit these parameters. Go back to the show and watch it. Okay? Go back to the show and watch it. And in the month of May, it was to find someone to mentor on the New Year, New You model. That's what we needed you to do. Find someone that you could mentor in the New Year, New You model, to begin teaching them. Not to just tell them about it and leave them alone and then come back 5 months later, but for you to be able to engage with them, be a accountability partner, to come alongside them and shepherd them through this process. And then in this month, right? This month, our challenge for you is for you to make sure that you are checking with your physician. And if you've not had them done yet, to go through those labs that we just did and get those labs checked. Whether you're diabetic, right? And that's specifically talking about diabetics. But if you have metabolic syndrome, polycystic ovarian syndrome, you have obesity, you struggle with weight, you have coronary artery disease, make sure that you're looking at getting with your physician and taking a look at those labs. And that's the challenge for this month. Right? We're gonna come back and we're going to tie this all together as we move through the year. Each month there's a challenge. So call to action, back to our call to action. So that is our call to action. Number one, join the challenges. Number two number two is to tell your story, share your story. Like right now, we have Chabs77 who's saying, I need something sweet. He says taste, right? Taste is his or hers. Chabs, tell me male or female, by the way. Right, so the heat model, right? Which one is yours? And Chabs is saying that, yeah, taste. I'll tell you, Chabs, I love that you said that, because mine, I got three of them. Mine is emotions, access, and taste. All three of them I struggle with. Okay? So tell your story. When you tell your story, people know that they can succeed. When people come to the office, they're talking about their stories, and we're going to be capturing some of those and sharing them on our platforms so that people can see that this is something that's happening. It is a real life thing that's going on. Even in our community here online, you've heard people come on and say, hey, I'm off of medication. My weight is the lowest it's been in months or years. And then invite a friend. Invite someone to the show. Invite them to let them know what's going on. Don't just keep this to yourself. Say to them, hey, let's go watch this show. Hey, let's go work on these challenges. Hey, let's go participate in this group. There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or pre-diabetes right now at this very moment. You can be the voice of change. You can be the voice to improve your circle, your job, your friend group, your community. You can change the medical, the physical parameters of your family. Be the voice for change. Okay? And another plug for unlimited. Remember, you have unlimited potential, unlimited ability, unlimited benefit. You can go beyond where you thought you could be and beyond where you thought things can happen. And then, of course, our challenge for this month is to make sure that you are checking with your healthcare provider and that you are moving through and doing the things you need to do in terms of getting your labs checked. Okay? Awesome, awesome. Well, y'all, as always, I'm excited when I get to hang out with you, excited to see you out there, excited to be a part of this community, excited to have you as part of this community as well. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, y'all, new year, new you. Good night. We'll see you later this week in our check-ins and on Monday, next Monday at 7 p.m. Central at our show. Good night, everybody.